Alton Towers, the United Kingdom's biggest and most famous theme park, a place visited by millions each year, families, thrill seekers and generations of people who've grown up hearing its name. To many, it's simply the home of British roller coasters, a place where records are broken and memories are made. It's where you'll find the Smiler, the world's first 14-loop roller coaster, Nemesis Reborn, a ride so intense it redefines what a thrill coaster could be, Oblivion, the first vertical drop coaster on Earth. But behind the roar of steel and the screams of excitement lies something far older. Because before Alton Towers was a theme park, before the roller coasters, the music and the queues, its land was part of a story that began centuries ago. Hidden beneath the laughter and the sound of machinery is a history steeped in ambition, artistry and loss. A history that began with a single family, the Talbots, the Earls of Shrewsbury, and their dream to create something truly magnificent, not an amusement park, but a sanctuary of beauty, art and power. The Alton Towers we know today was once their private estate, a vast collection of gardens, lakes and Gothic architecture designs to impress royalty and rival the Grandon's home in Britain. But like many grand dreams, it wouldn't last forever. The towers would rise, fall and eventually crumble, their ruins left behind as echoes of another era. And yet, out of those ruins, something remarkable would be born. What began as an aristocrat vision of elegance would become one of the most beloved theme parks in the world, a place of invasion, excitement, and joy. So how did we get here? How did a quiet estate tucked away in Staffordshire transform into a global icon of thrill and entertainment? This is the untold story of Alton Towers, from noble beginnings to the golden age of British theme parks. This is the history of Alton Towers, the rise, fall and rebirth of an icon. The year is 1826. Deep in the rolling countryside of Staffordshire, far from the noise of cities and industry, stands an estate unlike any other. This is Alton, the ancestral home of the Talbot family, the Earls of Shrewsbury. For generations, the Talbots had been one of England's most respected noble families, known for their wealth, their influence, and their deep Catholic faith in a time when it wasn't always easy to hold on to it. But in 1826, Charles Talbot, the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury, decided to transform his home into something greater than an ordinary country estate. His visions were bold, to create not just a home, but a masterpiece, a place that would rival the great stately homes of Europe, filled with ornate towers, sweeping gardens, and breathtaking views across the Churnet Valley. The Earl was fascinated by Gothic architecture, by its power, its drama, and its sense of mystery. He wanted every stone, every tower, every archway to to reflect that romantic medieval style. So over the next few years, he poured his fortune into redesigning Alton, hiring architects, landscapers and artists to bring his vision to life. What had once been a quiet family estate would soon become one of the most magnificent private residences in Britain. To bring his vision to life, the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury turned to some of the finest minds of his time. Architect Robert Abraham was commissioned to expand and remodel the grand house in a dramatic Gothic Revival style, complete with turrets, spires and stone carvings that gave it that now iconic silhouette. Outside, the renowned landscape designer J.C. Loudon was invited to shape the vast gardens, designing terraces, fountains and lakes that followed naturally with the hills of the Churnet Valley. Together they created something extraordinary. The estate became a masterpiece of design, not just a home, but a living work of art, a place of balance between man and nature, architecture and imagination. But while the Earl's creation was admired for its beauty, it was also surrounded by something else, a sense of mystery, because not far from the towers themselves, another story began to spread, a story that would become one of the most famous legends in Staffordshire folklore. It was said that one night, as the Earl was returning home, an old woman stopped his carriage near an ancient oak tree. She begged him for a coin, just a single piece of silver. The Earl, proud and unyielding, refused her, and with that, the woman cursed him. She warned that for every branch that fell from the great oak, a member of his family would die. That very night, during a violent storm, a single branch broke from the tree, and, as the story goes, a member of the Shrewsbury family died within hours. Terrified, the Earl ordered the servants to chain every branch of the oak to prevent another tragedy. The tree still stands today, its limbs bound in heavy iron, known forever as the Change Oak. Whether myth or true, it became part of every identity of Alton Towers, a symbol of the mystery, power and superstition that surrounded the remarkable estate. As the 19th century moved forward, the Earl's vision truly began to flourish. The once modest family home had become a national treasure, a showcase of Gothic architecture, exotic plants, and intricate design that drew admiration from across England. Visitors would travel from miles away to walk the carefully sculpted gardens, marvel at the lakes and fountains, and glimpse the soaring towers that crowned the estate. By the middle of the century, Alton Towers had become one of Britain's most talked about private residences. Newspapers described it as a wonder of modern art and nature combined. Under the 16th Earl of Shrewsbury, the grounds continued to grow, with new conservatories, temples and ornamental buildings adding to the spectacle. Lavish parties were held in the grand halls. Musicians played in the gardens as carriages lined the drive. The estate became a symbol of wealth, refinement, and social power, the jewel of Staffordshire. The towers have been so popular and parties have been thrown there and everybody loves it. But beneath the beauty, the seeds of decline were already beginning to take root. The cost to maintaining such an estate was enormous. The Talbots family fortune, once vast, began to dwindle under the weight of ambition and inheritance disputes. As the decades passed, fewer members of the family lived on the grounds. The servants who once filled the halls grew fewer, and the grand rooms, once echoed with laughter, began to fall silent. By the late 1800s, the towers stood as a monument to bygone age, still magnificent, but slowly fading. The gardens remained open to visitors, but the estate itself had begun to slip from the hands of the creators. The world outside was changing, the Industrial Revolution was reshaping Britain, and fortunes were being made elsewhere. Alton Towers, once a proud symbol of power and artistry, was quietly entering its twilight years. By the turn of the century, the laughter had faded. The grand carriages no longer rolled through the gates, and the music that had once echoed from the halls had long since fallen silent. The Talbot family, the Earls of Shrewsbury, had left their ancestral home behind. Generation by generation, wealth gave way to debt, and passion gave way to neglect. The tower stood still, magnificent but hollow. Windows cracked under the weather, ivy creeped across the stone walls that once gleamed in sunlight. The fountains ran dry. For the first time in history, Alton Towers was without purpose. In the years that followed, the estate changed hands again and again. The once private gardens were open to the public, not for royal visitors or grand celebrations, but for small fairs, tea dances, and village gatherings. It was a very different kind of laughter now, cheerful but faint, echoing through the ruins of what had been a world of luxury. Then came war. During the dark years of the Second World War, the British Army took control of the grounds. The grand halls were empty, the art and furniture removed or lost. The ornate rooms that once hosted nobility now held soldiers, classrooms, and training exercises. When peace returned, the towers did not. The war had left scars, walls cracked by neglect, roofs torn open by weather, and the echo of boots on marble floors that would never again host a ball. Nature began to reclaim the land. The gardens, once carefully sculpted by J.C. Loudon, grew wild. Statues toppled, paths disappeared beneath the green. For a time, it seemed that Alton Towers would be forgotten entirely, a ghost of England's path, standing silently among the trees. But in that silence, something unexpected was about to stir, a new dream, a very different one from the one that was imagined by the Earls of Shrewsbury. One was about to begin. After the war, Alton Towers stood battered but not broken. The grandeur was gone, but the spirit of the place was still lingered in the stones, the gardens, and the winding paths through the valley. In the 1950s, the gates reopened, not as a noble estate, but as a public attraction. Visitors can stroll the gardens once again, explore the ruins, and drink tea beside the lakes that had once entertained earls and duchesses. Slowly, new life began to return. Local fairs were held on the lawns, small rides and amusements appeared, simple things at first, carousels, slides and travelling shows. It wasn't the elegance of the past, but it was joy. And joy was exactly what the towers had been missing for decades. By the 1970s, crowds were returning in their thousands. The ruins had once stood as a symbol of loss became part of the magic. Mysterious, atmospheric, and unlike anything else in Britain. Then in 1973, the estate was bought by a man with a vision, John Broome. Broome saw potential in the decaying beauty of Alton Towers, not as a relic of history, but as a foundation of something completely new. He didn't see ruins, he saw possibilities. With determination and a touch of eccentricity, Broome began to transform the old gardens into a place of excitement and imagination. In 1980, his dream finally opened to the public. A new Alton Towers was born. Gone were the silent halls and overgrown path, replaced now by laughter, the clatter of roller coasters, and the sound of life returning to the valley once more. The first major attraction, the Corkscrew, was unlike anything the UK has seen before. A double-loop roller coaster that would mark the true beginning of Britain's thrill era. From that moment on, Alton Towers wasn't just a local attraction, it was a phenomenon. So now we have a brand new Alton Towers, filled with amazing rides and world records. And here's to many more.
I'm here at the Alton Towers Resort on the back row of the Smiler.
of my favourite places at Alton Towers, Her Ladyship's Gardens. And of course, we've just followed the pathway down, walk around to the left here, and then you get access up here to the gardens. The exit to Hex is down that way, and the conservatory is off to the left, as you can see from the people making their way out. If you follow the pathway straight down here, it leads you towards Her Ladyship's Gardens and the absolutely gorgeous views of Alton Towers. And the building